Yo, 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 it is time, it is time for that weekend analysis before this market cranks up and crank open. We're gonna look through a couple pairs. You know, my main one, AUD and Bitcoin. We also got GJ on the line, GU, NZD, USD, USD, JPY, gold, SPX, and NAS on the line as well. Looking at, how trading went last week. A lot of back and forth, a lot of back and forth moves, especially on AU. I got really turned around and really confused on this one, simply because I did not identify properly. And one of the things that I want to take time and make sure that I identify with this week's weekend analysis is that based off the higher time frame, we're looking when we go down to the smaller time frames for area we can possibly take advantage of the market before it resumes or continues in its current higher time frame trend. On AU last week, what I failed to realize was even though we got this big push, sometime I think it was like Monday or Tuesday throughout the week, we failed to really break the low on the 1 hour time frame. On the 4 hour time frame, it looks a little bit different because you got a wick here, you have a wick here, and then you have the bearish candle close way up here. So theoretically, in my eyes, support last way up here, but when you bump down to the 1 hour in that same area, the support is actually way down here. So what I did last week was I identified this area as the new 4 hour low. So I had the range from this area to this area. So ultimately, as I saw this area, or I saw this pullback here, I'm thinking, okay, well, um, this pullback did not break structure on the hourly, so potentially we could be still looking for shorts. And then you got this short action here breaking the 4 hour low, and from that area or from that point within the market, I was lost and confused because what you had was price action broke the low, it pulled back, retesting that area where it just broke from. It tried to short off, but when it did, it didn't continue the lower low, lower high formation, as in price was going to continue to go bearish. What you saw was price actually respected the high, the low, and continued to push higher. And the reason I think it did that was if you bump back out to the 4 hour time frame and you pay attention to where price action closed, like I said, it didn't close below the low here. So this isn't theoretically the 4 hour low that we should be identifying. I should be identifying this high with this low right down here. And if I did earlier, I did start to recognize it like Thursday-ish um um within the market, but at that point, I did have a position that did get stopped out. And had I recognized this confluence a little bit earlier, I would have had maintained my stop loss, and I would have never got stopped out. But overall, if this was the high and then this is that 4 hour low, price action did retrace to that 50% point. It did manipulate a little bit higher. If I add a different type of fib on, drawing that 618, let's see. What we can see is price action respected that golden zone. It pushed deep past that 50, deep into the, or not deep into the 618, but right up to 618 and start to close. And from that point there, we weren't able to break highs, resuming back to bearish trending. Then you got the breakout right back over here. Um, like I said, I didn't identify this until like Thursday-ish. Thursday Asian session going into Thursday Asian session going into Friday. So what we had was the Asian session price action opens right in open here. I took a short. What we got? I took a short like right up in here, and then I had stops at 900, right above structure, looking left, and I was targeting all the way back down here, where price action created the low previously, the 4 hour support. And what happened was I looked at the news after I formulated my trade idea, and when you bump down to the lower time frame, what I said was, okay, well, this was my entry. We pushed into profit. I see news coming, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna trail my stops, and I trailed them early too because I didn't want news to hit and take off and grab liquidity and then melt. So what I did was, as trade price went in my favor, it was really early in the trade. I trailed the stops, something like this, and then I got tagged right over here, and then price action came and it leaked all the way to my target throughout the London session and the New York session. So overall, definitely had an amazing trade setup, amazing analysis. I did get it out to the team back in over here. This is Bitcoin. I don't think I put the entry on AUD. No, I didn't. Okay, but I did have to where AUD, Bitcoin, AUD right here. This is where I got into the entry. this is when I realized news was coming, and I slid stops in the profit and got tagged out right before. And then, as you can see, like I said, price action continued to leak. Only reason, um, truthfully, looking back on this trade when I was talking to myself about it, recapping over the trails, like the only reason I moved the stops in general because of the news. I didn't want it to push up here after this entry. I didn't want it to push up here, grab liquidity, and then do this move and come all the way back to the bottom. So as I had the trailing stops, I wasn't really, I wasn't really, uh, I was happy to hold the trade, but I wasn't really willing to lose again simply because how I messed up back in over here. So was definitely really cautious when it came to this trade. So having the news, having this type of price action back in over here, not really winning a whole bunch. I was real at that point in time, real happy to trail them stops real early within the trade, but seeing the end result, a little bit, that was my trade. That's what I've been waiting for all week. I was trailing stops early within the week because I'll get into these shorts and then the market will reverse. Um, Pretty much break even trades, like 3 or 4 of them break even. That was definitely in profit. I didn't take any off because I was like, okay, well, we came down, we pulled back, and we broke, and then we're gonna continue breaking. We're gonna continue breaking, and it didn't. And it retraced. And by Thursday, I was like, oh, So, overall, coming into this week, what we know from the higher time frames, AU is my baby, so I will, pad and protect it and go out to the higher time frames and analyze it for you. But when it comes to the rest of these pairs and charts, we'll go from the 4 hour on down. But looking at AU overall, we were bearish on the weekly. We pulled up and we broke above 2 structures. Looking at the weekly, looking left, we closed above. And one of the things I noticed about AU, so we are overall bears. We did close above structure, so it does open my eyes to say, okay, we can pull back even more to this weekly supply zone that pushes into the lows, or we could just take this 50% play from this impulse from the high to the low, and that could be the only retracement we see. When we go down to the daily, we continue to try to build that evidence. Okay, well, price action pulled all the way back. This engulfing candle here, somewhat didn't necessarily. Hold on one second. So with this engulfing candle here, as you look at it on the daily time frame, we didn't necessarily really break any structures looking left. We didn't close below this low. We did get this one, but this low at the point would be the ultimate low. So, necessarily we didn't really close below anything on the daily. That's going to say, okay, we're going to continue to go bearish, but we are starting to formulate and build bearish structures. And because if this was the high, this is the low. Potentially, this could be the lower high that breaks through that low to send price action even further on down. And then from the weekly, we're looking to see if this retracement is over or if this move is potentially a pullback to push price higher. So when you go down to the 4 hour, try not to confuse yourself. Current price action on the 4 hour, it was bullish all last week. You bring back the analysis for the last 2-3 weeks, we have been bullish, but towards the end of last week or the end of price action last week, we did end up closing bearish. We got the high with the lower high, and then equal low. So based off what we know from the weekly, price action pushed up, and then currently the last week candle closed bearish. We could be done with the retracement on the weekly. On the daily, we had this big retracement engulfing candle that kind of didn't really break any structures, but it did on the 4 hour time frame. We got a higher low here, higher low there. Price action closed below, and on the 4 hour, we're currently bearish. So currently on the 1 hour, currently bearish on the 1 hour, 4 hour. If we open and remain under the 15-minute resistance we got right here, we could be going to retest these lows right down here, this 4 hour support. If not, if we gap open, we come open bullish, any bullish impulsive moves to the highs, come down to the 1 hour and the 15-minute, we could come back to retest this 1 hour resistance here. And then if we break through there, we could ultimately come back to this 4 hour resistance before resuming back that bearish nature structure trend and all that goodness. So overall, higher time frames, weekly bearish, daily, could be the end of a retracement from the weekly time frame. 4 hour is currently resuming, 1 hour is currently resuming bearish. So I will, if price action does not seem like it's going to break above this 15-minute support here, potentially take shorts back into the lows, catch a little scalp trade, and then wait to see what else we get once the market opens, or the price action, like I said, gap above, opens up bullish, strong impulse into these this forwards 1 hour resistance, then potentially could wait to see how the market formulates right up in this area, potentially short and take it lower. Kicking over to Bitcoin, I am in a couple of Bitcoin positions right now. Like I said before, if you watch any of my other videos, I like to trade Bitcoin on the weekend. Highest time frame I like to go to is a 4 hour on here. Currently on a 4 hour, we are bullish slash consolidating. What I saw looking at it from Thursday to Friday, I saw price action coming down, creating lower lows and lower highs. I saw price action create this 4 hour high that pushed you into the lows, and then we kind of shifted structure, shifted trend, shifted structure on the 1 hour time frame. Excuse me. So if this was that 4 hour high that pushed you into the lows, this price action here, this impulse right here, started to close above structure when you look left. And then we came back and created this 1 hour support. So going into Friday, when I saw price action create this 1 hour support and started to push up, and then we got this Asian open. When you bump down to the 15-minute chart, what we can see is price action created the Asian high, or started out, or this was the area I identified as the Asian low, came out to create the Asian high. I took a buy somewhere over here as we started to break highs and continue to go higher. Let's see here. Don't have my original entry on Bitcoin on here. These are the sales on Bitcoin. Yes, I don't have the original entry for the buys on Bitcoin, but ultimately these are all the positions. Ultimately, as the Asian session came in open, I started to take buy positions over there. And then as we started to pull back to this 15-minute support, got some more entries. And then right now, this is where we at right currently in the market. So ultimately, original uh, original entries were somewhere up in here. Stops were always beneath this support level here, because if we're going to continue this bullish trend on the 1 hour, if we continue this lower time frame confluence of the bullish trend of price action pushing back up, ultimately, I'm not saying that BTC is ultimately going to go bullish. What I'm looking for is price action to correct all the way back up into this level up here, before potentially ultimately resuming back bearish. So, like I said on AU, I want to identify levels and see where I can potentially take trades to get back to where I think price is ultimately going. But for this trade, take profit is like way up here. And then the entries that I have from down here, something like this. Because ultimately, when I was looking at this, I saw price action push up. When I saw it come back down, I looked at this level with this impulse move here. This was the manipulation to trap in sellers to think the market was going to continue to go lower. And then it came down and immediately closed back above. And then, yeah, so then I got entries from over there as well. Same stops, same targets. What I do realize is if price action comes back, go back. If price action comes up and stalls out at this 4 hour resistance, potentially go short or to go lower, I will, bump price, bump stops into profit, especially as soon as we start to break this 15-minute resistance we got right here. I'll be looking to bring these stops up as well as these stops. Definitely these stops, because at this point from this entry, we were creating high highs, higher lows, which is what I want to see. And yeah, ultimately, I'm looking for BTC to retrace all the way back up to here before potentially falling again. Where is my label? Price label. Way back up here somewhere. So back in the 30,000s is where I'm ultimately looking at the push to, and then potentially, to correct all this, it could stop right up in here at the 26,000 level. But for right now, that's where we at. That's how I see it. GJ kicking over to DJ, bumping out to that 4 hour time frame. When we talk about GJ from the previous weeks, we said that GJ was in a consolidation range. Ultimately, what we see is GJ sold off all the way to the bottom of the consolidation range, looking left, grabbing liquidity. Now we're trying to identify and see if price action is going to resume bullish back within this consolidation range, or if we're going to retest those lows one more again before getting active back to the top side. What we can see after we grab liquidity, we broke above structure, looking left. So we got a high, higher low, higher high. So 4 hour resistance, and then 4 hour potential low area that pushes into the highs. When you come down to the hourly, we don't necessarily have a level looking left that we can say a 1 hour resistance that can potentially push us back into the highs. Right now, we have a 15-minute level of resistance where price action hung up at the market close last week. So potentially, what I'll be looking for on GJ, if we close below this 15-minute support right here, potentially we could be coming back down to this zone area range right back down in here before pushing back bullish. But I would like to see how price action opens here. and see what happens here, because if we come down and start closing below this continuation sell zone, then potentially we could be resuming back this higher time frame confluence of bearishness. If this was the high that pushed into the lows, what we can see is that price action could ultimately only be doing its retracement back into the 5618 golden zone, kind of like we saw on AU. So if we come down and just continue to produce lower lows and lower highs, then stick with the trend, get in line, catch you a lower high and get active. If we close above this 4-hour resistance right around 163,700 level, looking for a continuation buys of higher highs and higher lows back into that ultimate weekly high or to the downside. I couldn't necessarily tell you how far I would look to the downside until price action start to move in such a way. Pushing over to GU. GU, what we can see is from last week's price action, um, ultimately creating lower lows and lower highs. What we've got marked out is the last lower high that created the lower low. We do have a 1-hour resistance to say that if price action is not able to close back above this level, we could be coming back to retest these 4-hour supports before giving a bigger retracement back into the 4-hour resistance back up in here. But ultimately, we want to see what price action does right here at this 1-hour support or 1-hour resistance right around this 12800 level. So if we fail to break above this 12800 level, 12900 level, then potentially we could be coming back to retest this 4-hour support before potentially ultimately retesting back in up in here before the market goes lower. So that's what I'll be looking for on GU. Potentially could have continuation buys above this 4-hour resistance. Yep, and then potentially continuation sales below here. A lot of it will depend on how the market opens up, and then what type of structure we begin to build once the market opens up. We do have a ton of liquidities from the higher time frame starting to build right in back and over here. To the downside, we have the same, so definitely be ready. I have not checked the news just yet. I want to get this analysis out before 5 o'clock. Clicking over to NZD USD. From last week's price action, what I was looking for as price action dropped off like AU did, I wanted to see if it come back to this 15-minute resistance resistance at that point. Potentially to see if we can retest the lows first. Kind of the same thing that I saw on, what is it, GJ or AU? AU, yep, retesting the 15-minute support before it retested the lows one more time before pushing higher. And when you click back on NU, this is a clear example of what I would look for to potentially take that scalp trade, price action retesting, and then coming back to retest those lows before moving higher. As you can see, that move did play out last week, so potentially could have had scalp shorts back into those lows. Let's see how the range looks. 26 pip, and then made over to the bottom 42. So potentially, if you're trading that between the New York session, then potentially definitely could have had a nice little scalp there. And then ultimately, the second setup would have been as price action pulled back to this 1-hour resistance, potentially take shorts from there. Now, the reason to look for shorts from either of these levels is because, in my eyes, price action came down and started to close the structures from the higher time frames looking left. It started to break structures. So if you had high, low, higher, high, higher, low, higher, high, you had price action come down and started to close very impulsively back into these lows. And for me, at this point, since we started to create structure on the way down, that's why I identified these levels to say, okay, well, if we're going to potentially resume and continue bullish, then price action is going to break through these levels, continue to make higher highs and higher lows. But if when we get back to these levels and start to, stall out, show that we're failing to create or continue to go bullish, I can potentially take shorts from this red zone here or this white zone right back up here. But for this weekend coming up, what we're looking forward to see price action did not break the 4-hour resistance or the 4-hour support. So at this point, what we're looking to do, or what I'm looking to do, is see, potentially we'll probably keep these same 15-minute and 1-hour structures and see how price action reacts to them once the market opens up. Ultimately, what I think is going to happen is price action is going to come back to this 15-minute level and then melt from there, grabbing liquidity looking left. But we'll definitely have to be at the charts to be able to catch that that scenario / trade setup. So want to see what price action does at this 15-minute resistance here first, and then we break above there, then we'll potentially Let's go out to the 4 hour real quick. So you have high, low, potential lower high, didn't break the low. So yeah, I would keep these levels. That's the same. On a 15-minute, you could even come to here and see what price action does from there. And we can theoretically say, okay, well, if we don't close above here, then potentially we could be coming back down into the lows before retesting the extreme highs. Or if we start to close above here, gap above here, we could come back to this 1 hour resistance before melting and going back to the downside. Clicking over to UJ, pretty much similar setup. What I like on UJ, we are bullish on the lower time frames, 1 hour, 4 hours bullish. Like I said, what I do like on the on UJ is price action from last week's price action. We created this NY low, and then we gave this NY high, and then price action closed off for the week, market close. Usually, when I see this setup, what I like to do is ultimately immediately go and grab the fibs, and then what I do is set up and wait and see how price action reacts from the 382. If it doesn't build a support here to potentially retest the highs, um, which is probably be the first trade I'll look to take, just a small scalp to retest the highs. And then I'll look for a deeper retracement back into this 50% of 618 zone, the golden zone, to potentially advance the highs even higher to the next target zone I got right up in here at 137, 300, 400 level. That's if the bullish scenario plays out. If price action comes back down and start closing below this 4 hour resistance, then potentially be looking for lower lows and lower highs to retest this little demand zone we got right down here. So pretty nice setup on UJ. I will have eyes on this tonight. So we'll read this one, take the red off of this one and off of that one, because UJ is a setup that I think potentially could pop off during the Asian session tonight. Potentially GU as well. And then we're gonna switch over to gold. Gold, we got clapped real good last week on gold. I did not take any trades, but the way I analyzed it did not play out well. It did not my zones like I got here, continuation buys above, none of them really held up. So this is the way I'm analyzing it this week. What I did was I went to the higher time frames, the weekly, to mark up my supply and demand zones where I think prices trying to get back to or coming from. Right now, what we can see is price action is bearish. So ultimately, this could be a 50% retracement of this impulsive move from the lows to the highs. What we can see is we have started out into that golden zone. So coming into this week, what I would look for to see is, does price action start to shift and close below this 4 hour support here and start to make lower lows and lower highs to ultimately come back and retest this demand to the downside. So that's what I'll be looking for on gold. If we shift below, then I got continuation sales below 1754. If we start to push back in the highs, we got buys, continuation buys above 1794. Switching over to SPX. SPX currently bullish, lower time frames, bullish overall for the last 2 or 3 weeks. What we're looking to see is, do we get a retracement back into this 1 hour support? If we close below this 1 hour support, potentially coming all the way back deeper into the 4 hour support to grab some liquidity before pushing higher. But right now it's pretty much in the middle. So definitely want to see if we retest the highs first. And bump down to 1H. We got 2 ways price action potentially could go from here. We're already bullish. We're looking for bullish outcomes. So if we don't want to mess with anything right up in here, potentially wait till this breaks above, come back to retest, and then ultimately we're looking at targets way up here in this 4,200 area, 4,300 area, which is a good ways away. So if we are able to stay above this 1 hour support, potentially wait till the structure shifts on the lower time frames and potentially get active targeting this 4 hour resistance first, and then ultimately seeing how long it takes to get back up into this 4,200 level. Switching over to NAS, I think NAS has pretty much the same outlook as SPX, but ultimately that top zone isn't as far as weight on NAS as it is on SPX. Ultimately bullish for the last 2-3 weeks. Yeah, so we're looking to see if this 1 hour support holds up. If not, then potentially we could see a retracement trade back into this 4 hour support, and then potentially look to take it higher to push the market higher. As the move back into the 4 hour support is just a retracement to push the price higher. Yeah, pretty quick. I feel like that was pretty thorough. Definitely when price action is pushing bullish like this, I don't really like looking left to identify levels as far as where price action is going to respect as far as intraday support and resistance. So what I ultimately do is mark up the 4 hour low, 4 hour high, and then get active within that 4 hour zone. As far as targeting, I will look left as far as what I think price action can push up to or come down to when identifying structure. But overall, this is how I see the market for this upcoming week. Potentially could be building USD strength, AU starting to push back bearish. Let's see, GJ is starting to push back bullish. GU starting to push back bearish. So potentially AU strength at this point. Potentially some JPY weakness. I don't think the GBP is strong simply because at this point, if it was, GU would be potentially going bullish as well as GJ would be going bullish. When you click over to NZUSD, it's starting to look like it wants to build bear structure. So potentially overall USD strength. USD JPY is going bullish. If the JPY was strong and the USD were strong at the same time, we would see a consolidated market here. We don't see that. We do see USD start to pick up strength. So ultimately, like I said, USD strength, GBP weakness, JPY weakness, and then let's click over to gold. Yeah, I don't really correlate the USD with gold, but usually you will see a inverse correlation, gold pushing up, USD pushing down. But for the most part, that's all I got for this one. Thank you for watching. If you did get any value out of this video, go ahead and smash that like button for your boy. Go ahead, call your cousins, your auntie, your nephews, your uncles, and your nieces over. Tell them come holler at your boy. We is getting active over here on the channel. I know we is it's not proper etiquette or when you speaking and all that, but at this point, we just trying to get active in these markets. So if you want speech class, I know somebody. If you want these charts, holler at your boy. If you got any comments, drop a comment. If you're liking and subscribing to what you see and you feel like you're learning for something and you're trying to get, some more information, drop a comment. I will try and get back and get active on these charts tomorrow. Go live tomorrow, go live on Tuesday, but we'll see how that handles out. I do got a whole bunch of kids that like to get active and like to wrestle and play around. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this one up right now because it is playtime until the markets get active around about 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. I don't know if I'll go live tonight. We'll see how the market opens up. If it looks juicy, I probably will. If Bitcoin pushing. If Bitcoin give me some good gas, like I said, I will look to trail the stops once we start pushing to this 4 hour resistance. For this trade, once we push above this 15-minute resistance, then yeah, we gonna see. We gonna see. Let me see if I can get an updated picture into the charts or into the group so then we can pull it up on the screen here. 15-minute. Go ahead and let that thing update real quick. Come on. There we go. Go ahead and capture that. Drop it off in the group. Like I said, I try to get all my analysis out so that all the people that's in my group can see them. And then this is analysis this is the screenshot I just took. So like I said, pretty much the same analysis that I have on Trading News that I have on my phone. Price action for these trades right here, as soon as we start to break above this 15-minute resistance, we'll be moving these stops into profit. And then with these trades backing over here, once we started pushing to that 4 hour resistance, probably even sooner than that, once we start to break these highs right over here, start to trail those stops right below here and see how it holds up. But overall, looking to swing this BTC and see where we can go with it. So far as holding up, yeah, right over here. Your boy was nervous. This big ass candle to the downside. I was like, ooh, we ain't gonna trail the stops. We ain't gonna trail the stops because we know ultimately if we are correct about price action shifting the structure and the trend on the 1 hour here, then if this is the next higher low, then this support should hold up to push price higher. So that's why stops are right down here. Targets are right up here. And yeah, we're gonna see how it holds up. That's all I got for this one. Like and subscribe. I'm out of there. Peace.